Hello and welcome to this video. What I want to do in this is just to mention a couple of other things that Audacity can do. Particularly, I want to focus on multi-track recording. So I'll just go ahead and do a recording right now. I'll hit the record button and do a recording. Now, it's good practice that when you want to record, you first of all want to record some silence before you go ahead and record. The reason is this: you want to be able to analyze what the noise in your environment is. So it's good to have some recorded noise from the environment, in other words, silence in quotes, and then you can now analyze that later on and remove it from your recording if necessary. So I'll have some silence and then I'll do a recording. 1, 2. Okay, so this is just a goofy recording, but then that's supposed to sound something like hi-hats. And I'll go ahead and record another channel to this, and I'll try to put maybe a kick of a drum on that. By the way, I'm doing all of this with my mouth. And yes, I know it probably sounds goofy. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and notice this yellow box around this track. So all I did was track, add new track. In this case, I'm using a mono track because I want the same volume on both channels. So I'll go ahead and do the recording on this track. Notice the yellow box around this means it is selected. This is where the recording will be. If I click in here, then this track is selected and the recording will be in here, but I want to record on this in this track here. So I'll go ahead and hit the record button, wait for silence. I have my counting, and then I'll now try to hopefully put some kick into it. 1, 2. Okay, so that's that. If I play both of them together, what you have is okay, and that was terrible. So this will need some movement. Now, if you listen to this very well, you notice that they are not quite synced up at the very start. So if I took, say, this portion of this recording, and let me zoom into this just a little bit, okay? So if I took that portion of the recording and I hit the move tool and I dragged it, okay, I'm dragging the entire thing in this case. I dragged it and I just tried to line this up somewhat. Now listen to it. Okay, notice that sounds quite good. Now I'm going to take this remnant over here and I'll need to cut it out and move it around. Now notice that these are some things that one could actually do to a recording and could make it sound like, wow, it was perfect, whereas actually really originally it wasn't that perfect. I'm going to come to generate and generate silence for no, I don't want to generate silence. Let me generate silence. What I want to do is to place it somewhere at about here. Paste. I cut and I paste. I'll cut again and I'll go back and paste. Does this line up? Let's see. Okay, so it's not perfectly lined up. In fact, to just save myself some trouble, what I'll do is I'll delete the rest that we have over here, just so that just to save myself some trouble, since that part doesn't line up. But notice that something that didn't line up before, I was able to line it up just by using audio editing, and this is one thing that good producers actually do. Okay, so that's how that sounds. And notice we have 2 tracks. I could go ahead and add other tracks to this. You could have several tracks in there, and that really is not a problem. Now, at the start, I said that we often will leave some silence at the start of a recording. The reason is that we want to analyze the noise in the room. So let me go ahead and just show this a little bit. I'll take this over here. Now, remember, it is just silence. I'll come to Effect and say Amplify. Amplify it 50 dB. When you amplify it, you see that apparently it wasn't that silent. So all of that was actually in the room. Now, let me just undo that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Audacity, everything that is here is purely noise. I don't need it in my signal. So I'll come here. So let me just play this once again. 1, 2. Notice you don't really hear that noise in there. However, it is there. So let me select this, come to Effects, go to Noise Reduction, say get noise profile. So what it does is that it looks at this signal, analyzes it, and says, okay, now I understand what noise is. And I select the entire signal, or well, like a cut. Well, I'll select the entire signal and tell it noise reduction. Now I could tell it to reduce the noise. You could set things. How much do you want to reduce the noise? By 10 dB, by more, by less, and what do you want your sensitivity to be? How do you want the bands to be around the noise? Let's just preview what this sounds like. 1, 2. Okay, so sounds okay. So I'll just go ahead and click on OK. And I'll do that for this signal over here as well. Noise reduction, because it's the same noise profile that we should have. Okay, so that should reduce the noise in both of them. Now let me do what I did a little earlier. Let me come here and amplify this by 50 dB once again. Notice that the noise there is still there, but it's much less. Okay, notice it is much less. And I'll just leave it be as this. Now we do not need this, we don't need this much of the signal anymore. We don't need this much from this point to the start. We don't need that anymore. So we're going to just delete that. Now what I did was I clicked on Shift and started dragging so that I could select all the tracks. I'll click on delete. So I don't need that noise part anymore, and I don't need the counting either. Now I just play this. Now let me go ahead and just, like we did in the last videos, I'm going to amplify this, amplify this. I'll go ahead and normalize. In fact, let me just go ahead and select everything. Normalize this. Where are we? Normalize this. Yeah, and I think I'm good. So I'll go ahead and play this once again. So I could decide that I want to play around with the acoustics and play around with graphic equalizer. But in this case, I'll just leave this just as is. So this is the third video I had on audio editing, and in this case I talked about multi-track recording. I hope you've learned from this. Thank you.